In the grand narrative of the Roman Civil War, the prelude to conflict between Caesar and Pompey is a critical phase that set the stage for one of the most consequential struggles in ancient history. The concept of the prelude essentially refers to the series of political, social, and military developments that led to the inevitable clash between two of Rome's most powerful figures. This period was marked by escalating tensions and maneuvering that would ultimately explode into full-scale civil war. The importance of understanding this prelude is paramount, as it provides insight into how personal ambitions, political machinations, and power struggles can tip a republic into chaos. One significant factor in this prelude was the First Triumvirate, an informal political alliance between Caesar, Pompey, and Crassus. While the triumvirate was initially successful in consolidating power, underlying tensions and rivalries simmered beneath the surface. For instance, Pompey's increasing dissatisfaction with Caesar's growing popularity and Crassus's death destabilized the balance of power, causing allegiance to shift and conflicts to surface. Another example is Caesar's military conquests in Gaul, which not only boosted his popularity, but also threatened Pompey and the Roman Senate's status quo. Caesar's expanding influence highlighted the fragile nature of Roman political structures, increasingly vulnerable to individual ambitions. Various opinions support the significance of these events. Historians often argue that the prelude exemplified the weaknesses in the Roman Republic's political system, unable to manage the ambitions of powerful individuals. These scholars suggest that had there been more robust mechanisms to moderate power, the Civil War might have been averted. However, challenges and controversies abound in interpreting these events. Some historians argue about the inevitability of the conflict, positing that personal grievances and ambitions made war unavoidable irrespective of the political climate. Others suggest that different tactical decisions by key players could have altered the course of history significantly. The prelude to conflict deeply intertwines with the broader theme of the Great Civil War, revealing a chain reaction of events that not only precipitated the war, but also defined its conduct and ultimate outcomes. The alliances, rivalries, and political maneuvers of this period would echo throughout the war, influencing military strategies, allegiances, and the eventual restructuring of the Roman political landscape. Understanding this prelude offers invaluable insights into the dynamics of power, human ambition, and the vulnerabilities of political systems, underscoring how initial developments can trigger monumental historical shifts. In exploring the heading Caesar versus Pompey, the great Roman Civil War, one must delve into the profound historical and political implications of their conflict. This clash between Gaius Julius Caesar and Gnaeus Pompeius Magnus, more commonly known as Pompey, was not merely a battle for control over Rome, but a pivotal episode that reshaped the entire Roman Republic. The Great Roman Civil War was essentially a power struggle between two former allies, whose ambitions and political prowess led them to a deadly confrontation. The significance of this war lies in its transformative impact on Roman governance. It marked the end of the Roman Republic and set the stage for the rise of the Roman Empire, underlining the fragility of republican institutions in the face of concentrated power and military might. By pitting two of Rome's most influential generals and politicians against each other, the conflict highlighted the deep-seated divisions within Roman society and the Senate, exacerbating tensions that had brewed for decades. One real-world application of this historical analysis is the understanding of how unchecked ambition and rivalry among leaders can destabilize a political system. This theme is evident in many scenarios where power gets concentrated in the hands of a few, often leading to authoritarianism or a significant restructuring of governance systems, as seen in certain modern-day political crises. Additionally, the Civil War exemplifies the potential for military leaders to exert substantial influence over political affairs, a concept that resonates throughout history, from Napoleon Bonaparte's rise in France to military coups in various parts of the world. Support for this notion comes from historians who argue that, while Caesar's eventual victory and the subsequent rise of the empire led to an era of relative stability and expansion known as the Pax Romana, it also marked the downfall of republican ideals and paved the way for imperial rule. However, this perspective is not without challenges. Critics argue that the decline of the Republic was inevitable due to underlying systemic issues, and Caesar and Pompey's conflict was merely a symptom of broader political dysfunction. This great conflict underpins later developments in Roman history. It set a precedent for how personal ambition entwined with political strategy can directly influence states' pathways. The Civil War was a catalyst for the centralization of power and highlighted the need for reform within the Roman political system, a struggle that resonates even in today's political arenas, where the balance of power remains a crucial concern. Through this lens, Caesar versus Pompey, the great Roman Civil War, serves as a timeless lesson in the dynamics of power and its myriad influences on societal structures. In the grand narrative of the Roman Civil War, the key figures Julius Caesar and Pompey Magnus signifies the central clash of political titans whose rivalry reshaped Roman history. Julius Caesar, a charismatic leader and military strategist, challenged the Roman Republic's traditional power structures by amassing immense popularity and a formidable military following. In contrast, Pompey Magnus was a seasoned general and statesman representing the Senate's interests, revered for his earlier conquests and contributions to Rome's expansion. The significance of these two figures lies in their contrasting visions for Rome's future and their roles catalyzing the Civil War. Caesar's crossing of the Rubicon in 49 BCE, defying Senate orders and igniting the war, exemplifies his defiance and ambition. At the same time, Pompey's command of the legitimate forces underscored his dedication to maintaining senatorial authority. This political and military showdown was a pivotal pivot from the Republic to the imperial phase of Rome, marking the end of republican ideals. Two primary events illustrate this point. First, the Battle of Pharsalus in 48 BCE, where Caesar's tactical genius overcame Pompey's larger army, exemplifying the decisive shift in power. Second, Pompey's assassination in Egypt symbolized not just the end of a formidable opponent, but a crucial moment accelerating Caesar's path to sole leadership. Opinions on this conflict often revolve around leadership and governance. Caesar's supporters admired his reformist zeal and vision for a centralized Roman governance, seeing him as a populist hero. Conversely, traditionalists championed Pompey as a defender of the Republic, lamenting the erosion of established Roman values and institutions. Challenges and controversies are inherent in interpreting these figures. Viewed as a power-hungry dictator by some, Caesar's methods raised debates on populism versus autocracy. Pompey, on the other hand, is critiqued for his inability to adapt and respond robustly to Caesar's momentum. These contrasting perceptions illustrate the broader struggle between innovation and tradition, exemplifying the political ideologies concerning power dynamics and statecraft. This clash between Caesar and Pompey not only influenced the Roman Civil War's progression, but also underscored the deeper ideological struggle for Rome's identity. Their conflict catalyzed changes in governance, setting precedents for leadership and authority that would echo throughout Western history, influencing modern discussions about power, populism, and the responsibilities of leadership in balancing personal ambition with public good. Caesar versus Pompey, the great Roman Civil War, is a pivotal chapter in ancient history, marked by its devastating impact and significant political transformations. At its core, this conflict is defined by the struggle for supremacy between two of Rome's most powerful figures, Gaius Julius Caesar and Gnaeus Pompeius Magnus, known as Pompey the Great. This war, occurring from 49 to 45 BC, was a decisive confrontation in the inexorable decline of the Roman Republic, a system that had lasted nearly 5 centuries. The significance of this war lies not only in the outcome, but in the precedents it set for future governance and the role of military ambition in Roman politics. One illustrative example of this point is Caesar's crossing of the Rubicon River in 49 BC. This act, accompanied by his famed declaration, Alea iacta est, symbolized the irrevocable commitment to conflict and defiance of Roman law, which forbade a general from bringing his army into Italy. It underscored the shift from law and tradition to personal ambition, dictating Rome's political agenda. A second example is the Battle of Pharsalus in 48 BC, where Caesar's forces, though outnumbered, decisively defeated Pompey's legions. This battle demonstrated Caesar's military genius and the weakening of traditional Republican support, marking the decline of Pompey's influence. Supporters of Caesar argue that his leadership paved the way for the eventual stability of the Roman Empire, suggesting his vision transcended the limitations of the waning republic. However, detractors point to his actions as a betrayal of republican values, laying the groundwork for autocracy and dictatorship, a point exemplified by Caesar's subsequent assassination in 44 BC, a direct result of his perceived overreach. The war was rife with controversies. One major alternative viewpoint posits that Pompey's focus on conservative republican ideals may have held the potential for a more stable government, had he emerged victorious. Additionally, the Civil War furthered the dangerous precedent of military intervention in politics, a trend that would haunt Rome for centuries. The conflict profoundly influenced other aspects of Roman history, particularly in highlighting the Republic's vulnerabilities and the need for reform. Its resolution led directly to the rise of Caesar's heir, Octavian, later known as Augustus, who became Rome's first emperor. Thus, the Civil War did not just decide a single struggle for power, but irrevocably altered the course of Western civilization by transitioning Rome from a republic to an imperial state.